We're going to get started here. We're going to go through a few things here, and then we'll get into the nuts and bolts of everything. But this is just some stuff I need to cover so you guys understand who we are, what we do, and we're legal. Like, we're actually legal, what we do here. So my name's Corey, owner-operator of Kokanee Krew Outfitters. We started this up in about 2019, and since then it has just grown. It's been a fun journey, fun trip. I'm hoping I can continue to do this for another 10 to 15 years if I can endure through all this. Like I said, this has been a fun trip. I just want you guys all know we are underneath special use permits from the U.S. Forest Service, the Wasatch Cache National Forest, also Fish Lake National Forest, and then through the Utah Division of Natural Resources, we have permits, special use permits through them as well. There's a lot of other things you got to have, but those are the most important. And then our sponsors, of course, Marine Products. We can't do what we do without these guys. Marine Products has been great to us. Vern back there, he's the guy that sells the boats. Adam, he's back there managing this whole thing. And then all the guys that are working in the shop, parts, they're the ones that keep us alive. So we appreciate Marine Products. We appreciate you coming out to this event. Duckworth Boats. Duckworth Boats is, we used to have I had a Northwest 208 Lightning, which is made by Duckworth. And then I've moved to this, which is literally a dream boat that I wanted. I was able to get it, and I've loved it. That 24 Navigator right there is an amazing fishing boat. I really like that Pack Pro right there, that 26-footer. Any of you guys step up on that 26-footer? That's like a really spacious boat. And then Shields, just down the road here, several miles. We work with them as well. Shields has been awesome with us. The Hub Cafe in Heber, Rocky Mountain Tackle, of course. Jared is here. Mountain Land One Stop, Velocity Rods, and then I'm going to apologize to Kevin Louder with Nebo Tackle. I did not throw his logo on there yet, but it's going on there. Kevin with Nebo Tackle is somebody we've been working with a lot lately as well, and so we're thankful for all these guys that work with us. There we go. You guys just met Caden. Love Caden, his family, Lindsay, Ridge, Riley, their new little girl. I was just back there visiting with Ridge, but I'll tell you what, what'd I just do? There we go. Ridge right there has the cutest kid you'll ever meet in your life. And then Riley, she's just adorable. But we've loved having Caden and their family around us. He's been guiding with us for the last 3 years, and he's just incredible. And then the guy that got me started kokanee fishing, that's Roger. How many of you there right there know Roger? Just one? Roger Jacobson? A couple of you? Roger's my cousin. He got me addicted to kokanee fishing. He also guides with us. He'll be taking out several trips this year when we get burned out or a little bit tired, or maybe we get sick or something. He's going to step in. He's retired, and he's willing to come back and help a little bit. So real quick, I'm just going to go through this. You guys mostly know where we fish. I'll just hop through this real quick. Of course, Deer Creek Reservoir, no kokanee in there unless they accidentally slip through the dam there, which they have. There has been some kokanee caught in Deer Creek. I don't think it's enough that you're going to see a population grow, but we have seen kokanee caught. One of my guides, Jade, which he's not on here, Jade kind of helps us with some ice fishing stuff. He actually caught a kokanee 3 years ago on Deer Creek. And then Jordanelle, of course, we spent a lot of time there from November till April. We start kokanee fishing there usually December 1st. And then Fish Lake Reservoir, of course, we spend 2 weeks down there. We have 2 spots left. That's it. Fish Lake's a special place. We don't spend a lot of time down there. We go down there, we get it done, and we get out of there. We don't want to impact that area that much. The locals down there, we respect that they have a beautiful place, and we don't want to ruin that for them. So we're in and out, but it's a super special place to go fish for kokanee. And then Strawberry Reservoir is where we spend most of our time. We're fishing there right now. Caden fished Jordanelle yesterday. He killed it. Strawberry's been fishing really well for the last several weeks. So equipment, real quick, let's just go over equipment. So what do I need for kokanee fishing? Of course, life jacket is number one. Remember we was just talking about old KSR, Caden Submarine Robertson? That right there can save your life. Is Kevin Frankham in here today? He's not, thank goodness, because now I can kind of pick on him. Kevin last year, he was with Roger. He accidentally reached over the back of the boat. He had one of these life jackets on, right there. He reached out over the back of the boat. He accidentally slipped and fell in. The life jacket didn't deploy. That life jacket didn't function. There's a reason why that life jacket didn't function, because when you buy these, remember it comes with a cartridge? You actually have to put the cartridge in it. So we make fun of Frankham a little bit because he's still alive and he's here, but make sure you guys are wearing your life jackets. Make sure you put the cartridge in if you buy these so it'll actually work, save your life. Last thing we want to do is, we haven't had any incidents on Strawberry for a few years. The last thing we want to hear is somebody falling in and we're having a recovery. So your families love you. We love you. We just want to make sure that you guys are safe out there. So make sure you're wearing your life jackets. Fishing rods. Most of the rods that you'll see on our boats, mine and Caden, are going to be Velocity fishing rods. I use the Ninja. I love them. I think they're great. I do use a couple Mama Hog rods that I run off my outriggers just because they're a little bit longer. And Jared, he's out of Spanish Fork. We're going to support what he does. Aaron, he's out of Tooele. They both make great rods. They're both great to us. But like I said, I love the Velocity rods. Those rods that are on my boat have probably been on there for last 6-7 years. I've broke a couple tips, and Jared has tips. He can get them to you really quick, like that day. So keep that in mind when you guys are buying some of this equipment, who makes it, where it's located, and how quick you can get it replaced if you need it. They're great. The reels that I like to use is I prefer the Dio Alexa 100 line counters. They do make those in left or right. They're a low profile reel. They're just compact and they're just great kokanee reels. And then you have the Okuma SX11 163D. I know Roger loves those reels. If you're fishing really cold water, like December Jordanelle, you're probably going to want that one. That one tends to have a little bit of issue as far as the oil that's in it. It's a little thick. The Daiwa is actually, the oil that's in those Daiwas actually works even in freezing weather. It lets that line go out. But those Okumas tend to thicken up a little bit on the oil. It's only in cold weather, so if you don't fish cold weather, either one of those reels are going to be great for you. And then the line I prefer to use is I use Seeger Abrasics. The reason I use Abrasics, 12 to 15 pound is sufficient. I use 15 because we're out every day. For you guys, most of the time, most of you out here, 12 pounds going to be fine. I know as you guys are out fishing, especially Strawberry, those cutthroats like to come in and they like to hit above those dodgers. And I'll show you, I've got one of those over there. I'll show you here in a minute. It's got some nicks on it. The Abrasics holds up a lot better on those nicks when those cutthroats come in and hit that line right above your dodgers and they kind of nick it. So make sure you're using some good quality line. If you get a big kokanee and it breaks your line, it's kind of heartbreaking, especially when they jump out of the water and you see the size of that thing and you're like, oh my gosh, he just snapped my line. So make sure you have good quality line, replace that stuff every year. Make sure you're ready to go. And then I use a Beckman kokanee landing net. Now, you'll see that net right there. That hoop right there is a Beckman kokanee landing hoop. I've just switched handles because the Beckman handle is aluminum. It's super lightweight, but that handle right there by Talon, it's expensive, but it floats. It's a carbon fiber It's pretty dang light. Once in a while, we drop our nets in the water, and I always have an extra net on the boat. If you lose your net, call me. I'll probably drop it off to you. I'll let you use it for the day. But that net right there, that handle floats. So that's why I went to that handle instead of the aluminum one. The Kokanee actually shoots foam up into his handle on the aluminum one. That'll work as well, making it float. And then the electronics we use, of course, the boat's here. So you can see I use Canon Optimum downriggers. Well, let's back up. Let's go to the Minn Kota Quest. I use an Ulterra. Caden uses a Terrova. Anybody here don't know the difference between the Ulterra and the Terrova? The Ulterra deploys and stows by the push of a button. The Terrova, you have to manually go out and put it in the water and manually bring it up. The new Quest motor are brushless. They're incredible. You put 3 lithium batteries on that Quest motor, 300 amp lithium batteries, you're going to be able to troll all day and still have 70–80% battery capacity at the end of the day. When I get done with this, I rarely use my kicker motor. In fact, I had to have my kicker motor carburetor gone through because it plugged a little bit, because I've only put like 20 minutes on that motor in a year. That electric motor, that's pretty much all I use when I'm out kokanee fishing. When I get done, I'm 75–85% battery capacity left. So really consider going to lithium and that Quest motor. It's awesome. And then I use the Optimum downriggers. The Mag 10s are great also. Just the Optimums, I mean, they're all electric, and Scotty makes great downriggers as well. The Optimums just have a few extra features that I like a jigging mode, or cycle as they call it. It has bottom tracking, but I think my most favorite feature is when I drop a downrigger ball down to say 20–30 feet and then I hit auto up, there's a target button on there. And so after I let my line back out and I hook that up to my clip, I hit that target button and it takes me exactly to where it was when I brought that up on auto up. So it remembers that last depth that you were at. And for me, I fish kind of that way. Like, I always want to know where I was catching those fish. I'm always making adjustments through the day, but if I just caught a fish at 23 and then I forget and I'm like, oh gosh, was that fish at 15 or 18? I want to know exactly where that fish was so I can get that back down to exactly where it was. So that's what I like about the Optimums. Like I said, they're a little more money, but for us that are forgetful and can't remember, especially when I'm fishing 6 to sometimes 8 rods out there. Sometimes I can't remember exactly where I have everything. So it's kind of nice to have that to remind you. And then the Garmin livescope. I use the Ultra 2 screens. You can get it in a 12-inch, which is that 126 SV, or you can get a 106 or a 106 SV, which that's 12-inch, that's a 10-inch. I think they even make a 16 now. 16-inch, it's huge. Like, that's giant. Like, I got a 12 back there on the back of my boat, and I mean, it'd be nice to have the 16, but I think I'm gonna pass on that for a little while. They're a little spendy, but definitely nice if you want to be able to sit back in your boat and look back at your screen at what's going on with your live scope. The boat transducer I use is a GT56 UHD. How many of you guys use side imaging? Okay, it has side imaging on it. How many of you guys have fished with us? Raise a hand. Quite a few. How many of you have seen me using side imaging and live scope at the same time that's fished with us? Not a lot. Just shows how much they pay attention. Side imaging is important. We'll talk a little bit about that. Today we'll talk about that. It's not something we always cover. But that transducer is great for side imaging, 2D, 3D, everything that you need. And then the live scope, I use an LVS 34. It's perfect for right now. I've heard maybe they're coming out with a new one here sometime, but that 34 is perfect for kokanee fishing. I can see anywhere from 60 upwards to 100 feet back at our lures. So I can see a lot that's going on with that Garmin livescope. Cable retrievers, I use the Scotty ones, which are those upper ones right there. You can see those on my downriggers. I'm going to move over here and just show you guys that a minute. These Scotty cable retrievers, in case you guys have never seen them, this is all they do. You got that line out there, it's really hard to reach out there and grab that. So a lot of guys have never seen these. These are just really nice to bring this in, let your line out, grab your Seps clip. That's another thing that you're going to want. Hook your line onto that thing, and of course let that get back out there before you drop it down. So cable retrievers, two things: it saves your hands and it'll save you from falling over the side of the boat. So if you have a long boom, even a short boom, it's really nice to be able to bring those in. And then downrigger weights. You can see I'm using the shark weights. Any downrigger weight works. I prefer those. In the spring and maybe in a sensitive environment for kokanee, those can spook fish away. You may want to go to a black one. You may want to go to a lead one. Those are all things that I see from watching my livescope. Behavior of kokanee around a downrigger ball is important. If you see kokanee running away from your dodgers and your squids, probably going to be a tough day. They're pretty sensitive, they're spooked. Like I said, that livescope's pretty awesome for teaching us the behavior of these kokanee. You know, Scotty also makes a clip. I know they've got some of those clips in here, just some little squeeze clips. They're awesome for as your line clips as well, instead of the Seps. And then maintenance and safety, just make sure you have the Canon Terminator kits. That's that bottom piece right here. If you lose a downrigger ball, it's always nice to have these termination kits right here on hand, and always have an extra downrigger ball and an extra clip, because when you lose this, you lose all that. So kind of ruins your day if you don't have an extra downrigger ball, a Terminator kit, and a line clip. So make sure you have extra of those on board. Leather gloves, just to protect your hands while you're working with that stuff. Electrical tape is kind of nice to put around there before you make that first cut. Just keep that wire from fraying. And then, like I said, extra line releases, downrigger weights, fuses for your electric downriggers. That's important. You blow a fuse, you're going to want an extra fuse on there. And then sun and safety glasses. And that's just mainly for when you're kokanee fishing. It's always nice to be wearing some glasses in case that dodger and that squid pops out of that fish right there. How many of you guys have had a dodger hit you in the face or in the neck? I know Roger, it happens. Roger had some clients 3 years ago. He came in with a big old gash right here, and that hook ran right in there. And I mean, he probably should have had some stitches, but just make sure you protect the eyes. You can fix all this, but your eyes you're not going to be able to fix. Can I catch kokanee without downriggers? Is there anybody in here that doesn't use downriggers? You don't use downriggers? You do, Kevin. But what's that? Yeah. Sometimes we don't use downriggers. I mean, they're right. Sometimes we use snap weights, and we're going to talk a little bit about those and how important they are. Snap weights, always make sure you got at least a 1, 2, 3, and 4 ounce snap weight. If you've never used snap weights, these are very productive tools to have on your boat, especially when fish are scared of your downrigger balls. This is a great tool. You let 30 feet of line out, it's pretty easy. Let 30 feet of line out, hook on a 1 or a 2 ounce early in the season, let out another 100 to 120 feet. Now you have a dodger and a squid that's down. My reference is That's 10 feet down, that's 20 feet down, that's 30, that's 40 feet down. So I just reference off 1's 10 feet, 2's 20, 3's 30, 4's 40. It's close enough. It's relatively close. It's just a great tool, especially if you don't have downriggers. You can still go out and catch fish on snap weights. We do it all the time. I'm not running snap weights right now. I'm just kind of running long lines with some heavier dodgers, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. But great tool to have on your boat. That's your snap weight chart for about 1.5 miles an hour. You can get online, you can Google snap weight charts, and you can see these charts. You guys get pictures of that? All right, and then mastering kokanee tactics. So let's just talk a little bit about that. This looks like strawberry in like June and July, right? Crazy. Kind of looked like strawberry like a week ago. We kind of had a day like that. Even Jordanelle yesterday, I passed Jordanelle bringing my boat down here, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of boats on Jordanelle. So we're going to talk about, and as we go through this, let's ask questions. Raise your hand. We'll go through each one of these little bullets, and if you got questions, ask. First of all, we're going to be talking about the crowds, the depth coverage, the setbacks, live scope, presentations, changing presentations, speed variations, S-turns, and then marking your waypoints. So first of all, let's talk about crowds. How many of you guys get on the water and you see 5, 10, 15 boats all in an area and you kind of head over that way? Lying. Nobody raises their hand. How many of you look for Caden's boat and go after him? Yeah, go after Caden. Go find Caden's boat. But I'll tell you what, I proved this theory the other day. I had some clients from, where are they from? Not Chicago. Caden had Chicago. It was Arizona. I had a couple guys from Arizona, and I said, hey, you guys, we're gonna do something different today. I've usually been fishing kind of the north end of this area. We're gonna go fish an area where I have historically caught kokanee about the middle of April. So I went and started at that section, and I worked my way back, and I'll be darned if there was fish there. So there's 15 boats kind of up on the north end. There was me and Marshall Wilson down on the south end, and Marshall's finding schools, I'm finding schools. We found some really nice fish, and we got away from the boats. Everybody else that was down kind of on that north end struggled a little bit that day. There's, I know one guy, he's here, he did pretty good, but a couple other guys struggled. I'm just saying, when you guys see a crowd of boats, don't go get in the middle of it. If you've got a school of kokanee right there, and all these boats are pushing into this school of kokanee, are those kokanee going to stay there? Absolutely not. We've seen it. I mean, this school of kokanee that's right here is going to push out and away from these boats. So it's just like chasing a deer up on the top of a mountain. If we all come up from every angle, that deer's not going to stay there. He's going to push and get away from everybody. So fish, you still fish by the boats, but fish to the outside of them. Don't go in and fish next to those boats. It just makes zero sense. That live scope right there, I've literally passed a boat, and I mean, from here to those surf boats away from us, and I can turn my live scope and I can see fish on their dodgers, and I can watch those fish leave their dodgers and come over to us. Or vice versa. I can watch my fish leave and go over to those dodgers or those lures. So it's a lot of distraction going on for those fish, but if you can get away and you can lure these fish in to your dodgers, you got a better chance of keeping them with you and catching them. When all those boats are around you, it's just too much distraction. Those fish start scattering, schools start breaking up. It makes it a lot more difficult to catch them. So try to avoid crowds. Any questions about crowds? Depth coverage, multiple lines. You see 4 rods out there. 2 of those rods, if you look at the back downriggers, the downriggers closest to me, I fished those 2 the deepest. So you'll look at those two downriggers that are closest to me. I'm going to fish those at 25 and 30 feet deep, say this time of year. The two that are on the outside, they stick out a little bit further. They're a little higher in the water column. I'm going to fish those 15 to 10 feet. And then these outriggers that are out here, which is similar to a planer board. I just don't like planer boards because there's just too many boats that you have to watch those planer boards. I can spin these out of the way if you get too close. I can go out 20 feet on that side. Those ones this time of year, I'm literally going to run a heavier dodger with a squid. And those are going to be anywhere from 3 to 5 feet deep. Anybody here ever fished 3 to 5 feet deep? There's like 2 of you. I mean, I've done this seminar a lot of times, and I'm going to tell you, run a long setback with a heavier dodger. You're not going to get away with it like with a sling blade. They're a little lighter. They flutter around a little more. You got Kevin's dodgers, like the Barracuda and the Cyclops dodgers. Those are a little heavier. They tend to sink a little more on a long setback. So you got to make sure you have the right dodger, or you could run a sling blade with a 1 ounce and still get that down to that 3 to 5 foot range. But run some long lines off the back. You may be surprised at how many fish, especially kokanee, you'll catch, especially this time of year early in the season. Any questions about running multiple lines? I said we're running 4 to 6, sometimes up to 8. The other day we had 3 people on the boat, and I'm like, let's just run one off the back. We got the outriggers, let's run one straight off the back. And that one off the back caught 6 kokanee because I ran that 7th line. It saved my butt that day, like 7 extra kokanee, just with 1 extra line that was out there. Question?
Can you run multiple lines off the outrigger?
Do I run multiple poles?
Can you run multiples off?
I could run multiple poles off there. I only run 1 off each outrigger. 7's enough. It's a lot. I mean, especially when you're hitting, like, was it 2 weeks ago? We had 6 go off 4 times that day. And it was nuts. I mean, luckily I had some guys on the boat that could put bait on. They could, set the setbacks where we needed to be and put them back in the downriggers and outriggers. And I think we had an 83 fish day in 3.5 hours. I think we caught 32 kokanee that day, and then the others were rainbows and 1 cutthroat. It's just a super productive day. But as many lines as you can get, and you can control them, and you can keep them from tangling, give that a shot. And then setbacks. Setbacks are tricky. A lot of times we have short setbacks. And when I say short, I mean 5 feet, 10 feet, 15, 20, 30. Those are pretty short setbacks. That's on my deeper ones. So later in the year, I might have a 5-foot setback on a downrigger that's like 25 to 40 feet deep. Fish aren't as spooked that time of year. And then on the other ones that aren't too deep, they may be a 70-foot setback. So let's say right now at Strawberry, I'm running a 30-foot setback on my deep ones. And then the one closest to the boat, that's a 70-foot setback. My outriggers are a 130-foot setback. So I'm running different setbacks. That's mainly to keep from tangling and, of course, attracting fish at different depths in the water. Roger, the other day, he was out with Reed and my cousin that guides, and he's like, hey, we haven't caught any kokanee. And I'm like, well, what's your setback? And he's like, I'm 5 feet. I'm like, okay, Roger, I've been out here the last 3 weeks. You need to go to 30. And he's like, nah, I think 5's fine. I'm like, it's not. I'm watching them on the livescope. If I'm any closer than 20 feet, those fish won't stay. They come by and they leave. If I go an extra 10 feet to 30, they stay. They come back and they actually stay around our dodgers and our squids. And that's all thanks to livescope. Livescope doesn't help you catch fish. It teaches you the behavior of the fish, and then you need to adjust to that behavior. It's like I told Roger, 5 feet is spooking those kokanee off. But if you can get to 30, they like it there. Even if you get to 40 and 50, They even like it more. If you get to 70, 130, I told you that those kokanee, we caught 7 on the long line on 130. They were loving long lines that day. So make sure you're adjusting your setbacks and trying different setbacks. And once you find a setback that's working, kind of stick with it. And then you kind of shorten it as we get later in the season. The fish get a little more comfortable with it. Any questions about setbacks? Oh, you guys are easy. Okay, and then live scope. As you're looking at this live scope image right here, you can see this is how far back we are. So I'm looking, I think it's 110 feet. It's kind of where I like to look back. I've kind of zoomed in, so that's kind of in our way. 70 feet is kind of what I'm looking for fish-wise that day. I probably could have really stayed at 50. I could have adjusted that to 50 right here as far as my depth. But this is my downrigger ball. That's my cable. We're in 82 feet of water. That's a school of kokanee right there. And I've got a dodger and a squid there and a dodger and a squid right there. I'm gonna push play. As you're watching these fish, remember what I said, these kokanee are schooling fish. So there's a bunch of kokanee right here, following our stuff. They're looking at it, they're checking it out. And then you're gonna see a fish get hit about right in here, and he's gonna take off up. Within this, there he goes. So you see that kokanee get picked off right there. Those kokanee still stayed there with everything that's going on. They're still looking at another dodger and a squid right there. There's super fishy area. Here comes 4 or 5 more. A couple of these fish are coming in looking at the downrigger balls. They're scooting by. Some of these fish are just scooting right by. I would assume those are cutthroats. They have no interest in being in with the school of kokanee. And then as we get to, it's going to take a minute to get here to 1:48. But I think we caught 4 or 5 kokanee here within a 3-minute and 30-second period. This next fish that we catch, you guys have never seen this happen. And we're getting a few less fish. Sometimes those schools come in and then there's only 1 dodger down there right now. So some of those fish will actually leave. This other fish is going to hit here any second, hopefully. I'm usually yelling at my screen right now. Like, come on, hit it. Sorry, I wish I could fast forward it for you, but it's live scope. This is live action. All right, there he goes. So watch that fish. He goes up there. It's about 55 feet back. And then just watch right here what happens. Keep your eye focused on right here. You're going to see some splashes here in a second. That fish is up there jumping. And what happened? Say that again.
The bottles are down at a certain depth, say 30 feet. And is your dodger and lures more shallow than that? Is that what I'm seeing?
Okay, so what he's asking, I mean, obviously that fish got off, right? He's asking, I've got a downrigger ball right here, and I've got a dodger sitting right here. If you look at that, it's 38 feet. There's another one we just caught. That dodger and squid's sitting about 5 feet higher, right? It is. If you're using a sling blade, you're using Jared's sling blades, and you put a little bend in them, they tend to float a little bit. They rise a little bit. This is stuff you'll see on that live scope. If you don't have it, you would never recognize that. But yeah, some dodgers stay perfectly level with where your downrigger weight is, and other lighter dodgers that have a lot more action and flutter in the water, they tend to rise and float a little bit, especially the faster you go. The slower you go, they may sink a little bit. I can't remember, what are we doing? 1.5 miles an hour right there. So pretty cool having live scope, being able to see what's going on back there, learning behavior. Any questions about the live scope stuff there that you're seeing? Oh, question.
What's your
what's my sensitivity setting? I think it showed right there, which it was way high. I really didn't have this dialed in right here, but my gain was 81%. You really only need to be about 70 to 73 is pretty much where you need to be, as long as you got everything else kind of dialed in. Maybe that's something we'll do one day, is put a chart together where we have our livescope dialed in. Probably help you guys a lot. That wouldn't be hard to do. I know somebody has a chart out there. Somebody showed me a chart a while back ago. Any other questions about livescope? Okay, presentations. Presentations, I'm going to move over here to the boat real quick again. Certain times a year, right now, if everything I have on here right now is what I've been using for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Sling blades. Got a plankton on here. We got another sling blade. This is a gold one. I've got a minnow on there. I've got a Nebo Dodger here. That's a Hawkins Hot Tail. I'm using a lot of different stuff, but I'm using a lot of stuff that I typically use. And then, of course, here I've got my favorite pink and white glow with a pink plankton. Sorry, I hit there we go. This time of year, I like sling blades. A little less action in the water. They're perfect size. There are some sling blades. I've been using this one a lot. I don't use this. What size is that, Jared? 4 1/4. This sling blade, I don't use these a lot. Roger loves them. I tend to use the bigger ones, but I have been using this a little more this year. I'm kind of falling in love with it. That size, especially early in the season, has been working really good. And then, of course, you got a top devil there, perfect for trout and kokanee. So you got something that's a little less action in the water, and then I have something behind it that's very active in the water. So I'm kind of mixing a few things. But like I said, these right here have been working really great for me. But like early in the season, you're typically better to use a smaller Dodger, even, you know, up to this size here. Works really good. And then as we start getting into the middle of the season, we start getting a lot more active fish. Of course, you know, start making sure you're using some bright, vibrant colors. Make sure you're putting a little bend in those Dodgers, make that thing whip a little more. These fish are gonna start, you gotta irritate them. As we get into late summer, we'll do a late season seminar. We'll probably do that down at Shields this year like we did last year. Late season's different than right now. So typically late season, you're gonna see pretty good bend in that thing. Now the faster you go, you're gonna have to slow down with that, because the faster you go with this, it's going to spin. You don't want this thing to spin. You want it to just sway back and forth. These are the heavier Dodgers I was talking about by Nebo. They weigh a little more. That setup right there with green, that's a really good setup to have at Jordanelle right now, by the way. That's a killer setup. It's been working pretty good at Strawberry as well. This setup last year in July, literally caught about 8 20 to 21 inch kokanee on the surface in July at 10, 11 o'clock late morning. So you guys that think that kokanee go deep as it gets later in the day, that's not true. It's not 100% true. Caught some big kokanee at 10, 11 o'clock. Right on the surface. But that green one right there did really good last year. And then also as we get late season, bigger Dodgers. I think these are the new, is this a Coho blade? It's just a lot bigger. It's got a lot more flash. This would be a great one to use August, September for some red kokanee. These all still work all through the year. I just like to mix it up a little bit different and see what kind of action the kokanee are giving me on different size of Dodgers. I've even caught some big kokanee on this in August and September. Sometimes they want something a little smaller. So make sure you got a good variation of presentations in your boat. Now this is the most important part for me. You see these Dodgers and these squids that are on here. I have not changed these for literally 3 weeks. That's a lie. That blue minnow right there, I put that on the other day and it worked really good. Everything's kind of working really good right now, but I don't change presentations a lot. I may have one rod that I'm working with, which has been this one lately. I've been trying a little gold, a little blue once in a while when we're having a tough bite. But I highly recommend you don't change presentations a lot. If you have some colors that are working better than others, then put a couple of those on. How many of you guys change stuff a lot? Be honest. I mean, a lot of people change stuff a lot. This live scope right here, I can put a presentation down there and we're not catching fish. And it's driving you crazy. It's like I'm not even seeing fish on the live scope. I'm not seeing it on the side imaging. And why would you change your presentation if there's no fish down there? I've even took it as far as I've got 5, 10, 15 fish down there. I'm going to change my presentation and see what happens. Most of the time, when I pull a dodger out, it triggers those fish, if I've got a bunch down there, to hit the dodger that's in the water. How many of you guys have done that? You pop out a rod, and all of a sudden the other rod takes off with a kokanee on there. Well, you probably didn't see the kokanee down there, did you? Did you see the kokanee down there? When you pulled that out, did you know there was kokanee down there? Yep. You did? Yep. It's a little trick, right? Yeah. That's pretty common. But yeah, I mean, changing presentations, I don't do it a lot. If I do have a color that's picking up a little more fish, I definitely start putting 2 on. I mean, I've had some days that I've put 4 greens on or 4 blues, and it's just because those colors were dominating on one side of the boat or the other. So really consider not changing a lot, one at a time. Just work with one rod. Don't get away from, fishing is 100% confidence, right? So if you're going to stuff that you've never typically fished with, you're going to lose your confidence. Question? Leader lengths. What's my next? Oh, that's sense. Yeah, leader lengths. So let's talk about leader lengths. You're going to look at all these, and they're all about 14. I'll even get down to 6 to 8 inches. So short leader lengths. A lot of this stuff comes with 20 to 30 plus inches a leader. That's so you can put it as long as you want. But you don't need to have long leader lengths. 14 to 12, and that's on everything. And a gentleman asked me earlier, he's like, is that even on spinners? I'm like, yeah, I actually do that on everything. Some people don't. They like to, on a spinner or something that's spinning back there a little more, they like to have 20 plus inches. I was going to show you guys something real quick. You guys ever check your lines right here? Get a lot of nicks. That's why he's talking about that Seeger. I think that's one of them. I got a trip in the morning. We might as well just check them right now. Ooh, that one's nasty. So I'll show you real quick. There's some nicks in there, and that's literally just you seen how bad that was. I mean, you just lost 20 bucks there and a fish. So make sure you're checking that. I haven't checked those lines for probably 2 weeks, which is that's a no-no. I know better than that. And when that breaks like that, take about 15 to 20 feet off. Get to some fresh, clean line that's not been out there in the elements. But you saw how easy that broke. Thank goodness, or I'd have to give Kevin some more money. Or Jared. Like I said, these Dodgers, you want to protect them. They cost you money, and it hurts when you lose them. It more hurts when you lose the fish. Any other questions on presentations?
I was just curious. You said something about one side or the other. You got an explanation why sometimes one side of the boat's catching all the fish over the other?
What?
Any idea why?
I know the answer to this.
Yeah.
No. He asked why one side of the boat catches fish and the other doesn't. Does anybody here know the answer to that? I have no idea. But yeah, you're 100% right. Sometimes you'll get your starboard or your port side's catching fish and it drives you nuts. I mean, a few years ago, I had a rod that was in this rod holder, not this one, on my old boat, and it didn't catch a fish for 3 weeks. I was getting ready to throw it in the water. I was just so mad. I was even taking the dodger and squid off of something over here and putting it on this one, putting this one over here, and it wouldn't catch a fish. And I'm like, it's cursed. And then one day it caught a fish, and so I ended up keeping it. But I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because of the sun or the electrical charge of the downrigger. Maybe the sun's hitting the dodger just right. Sometimes kokanee are definitely directional. There's some days you can catch them going north or you can catch them going south. That's a real thing. But I don't know the answer to that. I'm hoping to figure that out one day. Any other questions? No, say that again.
They go in schools. The kokanee go in schools versus the trout.
Oh, so do the kokanee go in schools? Yes. So we're watching that a lot right now. Strawberry has some dandy rainbows, guys. Like, there's some big rainbows being caught on Strawberry. When you watch a school of rainbows go by, they're a little more broken up. They'll be 5-10 feet away from each other, but there'll be 15 to 20 of them. When you see a school of kokanee, it's a blob on your livescope or your fish finder. You're gonna be able to tell it's a school of kokanee. It's pretty obvious.
Any blob is probably kokanee.
Oh yeah, more than likely. I mean, if we're in July, it might be some chubs. You might be out in the middle of Strawberry and run into a chub population that's out there in the middle. But this time of year, the schools that we're seeing that are really tight are kokanee, and then as we get a little later in the year, they kind of break up a little more. Those schools get a lot of traffic, a lot of action, and they're going to break into smaller groups. But you can still see some big schools out there. That's why as we get into July, everybody's kind of catching kokanee all over the reservoir. And it's just because those schools have broke up more. Right now they're kind of sticking in certain areas of the reservoirs, and that's why you'll see a lot of boats kind of sticking in those areas. They know there's some schools in there. But as we get later in the season, those fish are going to start scattering out, and we're starting to see that early this year. And then scents, I typically use garlic. I like the garlic plus on the right there. Bloody tuna and anise work great. I like the pink maggots right here. I squirt a little bit of that scent into my maggots, shake it up, I let it marinate, let that stuff sit in the sun. Kokanee are attracted to scent. So make sure you're putting some scent in your maggots. How many of you guys use corn? Okay, corn works fine. I'm not gonna bash you on corn. I don't like scenting and curing, and it's just easier to put my scent in this and run it for the day. That's why I prefer maggots, but yeah, just a little drop of scent in there. You can get 3 different bottles and put your scent in there and try it. If you find a scent that works better than others, you probably don't want to change very often. You can change a little bit, but find a scent that works for you. Any questions on scent?
I have a question. Do you positive eye on your downrigger lines?
Do I positive eye on my downrigger weights? I'm on 6. On my lines, yeah. The lines, I have a 6 on my ion that I run at. Now, I have had kokanee down there on my live scope, and I've messed with my ions up and down to see if it does something to those fish. I haven't seen it affect them one way or another. So people catch kokanee on braid that doesn't have a ion on it, and they catch it on cable that does. So I don't know if ion really affects them or not. A lot of people seem to think it does. I know there's some, old school ways out there. I remember just a few years ago, they used to say kokanee don't come down to your lures. You got to be above them so they'll come up and hit them. That's a lie. Like, that's not true. I watched a kokanee come from 5 feet clear down to 40 and hit my dodger. 2 days ago out on Strawberry, I watched kokanee coming at 15, drop down to 40 and hit and doubled up. Like, there's a lot of false information out there. It's just not factual. But I mean, maybe different reservoirs, they act a little bit different. On Strawberry and Jordanelle, I've never seen that ion affect the fish. Question back here.
Yeah, transducer
with the live scope. So transducer ball, am I picking up them with my live scope? The live scope shoots out a 20-degree cone. It's very narrow. So if I have my live scope pull over here, I've got it in the water, I can look at specific downrigger balls. I can look at these two right here, and then if I turn it just a little bit, I can see these two. But to see all four at the same time, not happening with live scope. Yeah, it's just, that's too narrow of a cone.
Have you ever tried it on the trans and just trying to pick up the Dodger and
Let's say that again.
have you ever tried it on the trans and so you just get the Dodgers and the Gucci's and that? Is that harder to see? You need a ball.
I'm sorry, my hearing's horrible.
Have you ever tried putting the transducer on the transom where you just pick up the Gucci's and the Dodgers instead of the balls?
Okay, a transducer on the transom.
Yeah, so you're not picking up the balls, but you're just picking up the Gucci and the Dodgers.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever
Like,
tried that?
I haven't tried that, but if you're using a live scope, it actually has a back angle. So even if I have that transducer more forward, it's still going to pick up an angle back. I use that live scope transducer to look back at my Dodgers and my squids, but I can still see a little bit of an angle back this way to see fish coming in. So it's very handy. So if you do see fish coming in, you know that, like, okay, they're under the boat. They're 10 feet in front of the boat. Like, you can still see a little bit of that angle. Speed variations, make sure you guys are adjusting your speeds. 1.1 to 1.8 seems to be the speeds that we work with all through the year. Right now, this time of year, I've been using 1.2 to 1.4, 1.5 maybe. 1.3 seems to be a safe speed. As we get a little later, like July, you may have to bump it up to 1.6, 1.7, 1.8. As we get into later season, you may need to slow it down. So really start bending those Dodgers, get those squids whipping out there and just slow it down and really work those fish. Any questions on speeds? And then trolling and S-turns. How many of you guys go out and fish? You make a straight line, you're enjoying the day, and some boat gets in your way, and you got to turn, and you're cussing them out, and you single or you get a double or a triple on your boat. But any of you have had that happen? You make a sharp turn to get out of somebody's way and you catch a fish. Well, next time don't yell at them, thank them, but also make sure you're working that into your fishing habits of making turns all the time. I'm getting a little more to where I'm fishing a little straighter a lot more right now, and I keep forgetting to do my S-turns. But the other day I was like, okay, I need to get back into that habit. And so I started doing more S-turns and we started picking up a lot more fish. But make sure you're making those turns. And then when you guys catch kokanee, make sure you're marking those locations on your electronics. It's there to mark. Make sure you're making some history. Even if you know it's a kokanee, mark it. Make sure you go back and try those spots in the future. If you got some spots where you've got 3 or 4 waypoints, go back and you're having a tough day, go hit those waypoints. You might be surprised. I typically 90% of the time, I can go back and hit a waypoint that maybe I had right over here by dry storage, and we'll catch fish. And I'm like, oh, geez, I need to start hitting waypoints. Roger fishes that way. He goes waypoint to waypoint to waypoint to waypoint. I more target an area and hit it that way. Roger likes to cover water, but he goes from waypoints to waypoints, and he's very successful. So just a different style of fishing. And then kokanee numbers. As you guys can see on there, kokanee are very unpredictable. We get some high numbers of returns at the Strawberry. We get some low years like 2004, 2007. Everybody's complaining about COVID years. They're not too bad, guys. We had some really good high catch rates there in 2019 through 2020. You could catch those fish on a Rapala, a tube jig. I mean, the kokanee were so easy to catch in 19 and 20. Once we got back into 22, 23, 24, those were normal kokanee fishing years. It wasn't easy. You better know what you're doing. You better know how to run the fundamentals of kokanee fishing, or you're not going to have success. So those numbers of the hatchery keep coming up a little bit. I think this is just my personal, this isn't fact, but my personal opinion is we had some low water years. I think we have some fish that are in the reservoir that are a lot of natural reproduction going on. They plant 500,000 kokanee and strawberry every year, pretty close. But I think we're starting to see a lot of natural reproduction happening. Is that good or bad? We'll see here in the next 2 to 3 years. But this year, we're seeing some big fish. We're seeing a lot of good sized fish. And I kind of seen that last year. We was catching a lot of 12 to 16 inch kokanee. And there's also a lot of 8 to 10 inch kokanee we were catching. So the next 2 to 3 years looks good. I don't like that we're having a low water year, because those low water years hurt. They really hurt those fish getting into areas that they typically spawn. These are, I should have put some on here of this year. These are all this year. Those are all strawberry fish. Strawberry fish right there. That's old Steve Brown. You guys know Steve Brown? Steve Brown he used to do the sports. He came out fishing with us last year. And then these are some group trips that we took that were awesome, these fun trips. That's a strawberry, that's a fish lake, that's a strawberry, those are fish lake. Fish lake, we caught 7 kokanee over 4 pounds last year. The biggest fish we've ever caught came out of Fish Lake. So Fish Lake, like I said, it's a cool place. It's worth going to visit. Go give it a shot. July, I've heard, June, July is kind of the hotter months. And then these are strawberry fish. That was a 4th of July right there last year. We actually had that trip, and then I had a trip in the afternoon. I took out 6 people. That was my wife's boss, and I think we caught, I don't know how many fish we caught that morning. We just had an epic day, and then I went out in the afternoon, and we caught 43 kokanee. It was all kokanee. All kokanee. That was I bet an 80, 90 kokanee day for us on our boat. Those days don't happen all the time, but when they do, they're special, they're fun. The next day wasn't such a great day. That was just a special fun day. And then this is our red season, September 1st to the 9th. We still have some dates available for that. These are fun to catch. The meat's still pretty good on them. Typically, most of those fish right there, actually all those fish are males. I usually suggest or recommend, if you catch a big female, let's let it go. Let's let it try to spawn in the reservoir. That's your choice. I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't do. But the males, it doesn't hurt to take some of those males. There's a lot of males. Question?
How do you tell the difference between the male and the female?
Male and the female, the difference? See that big hook jaw? And then a little bit of a hump right here? The females, I wonder if I've got one. No, I don't. The females don't get that hook jaw, and they're a little more, they stay kind of that kokanee shape. They don't start getting that hump. They don't get teeth like the males do, but there's a pretty good difference. I'll try to remember next time to put a male and a female, because we do have some females that were on there. And then this is just a trip last year. How many of you guys, is there any kids in here? There's a couple kids in here. There's a kid. I'm a kid too. But we took Xander out to Flaming Gorge last year. We went out to the Lucerne Derby, and I'll tell you what, he was scared to death of these big lake trout that we caught. But you can see we kind of worked him into it, got him a little more comfortable holding these fish. And we got him to hold a kokanee right there. And then look at that. So you guys, get a kid out fishing. There's nothing better than to get these kids out, show them how to catch fish, especially at Strawberry, Deer Creek, Jordanelle. They're high-producing reservoirs for a lot of action. I know a lot of people get mad if somebody loses a kokanee. They get a little frustrated with it. It happens. I've never lost a kokanee in my life, but it can definitely happen. And I don't lie.
You proved it on that livescope.
That's true. Okay, question? Just a second. Let me come back here.
Can you speak to how to play the fish and not lose
lose them, and specifically a single hook versus treble, and maybe bungee type thing?
Okay, trying to keep fish on. A technique. I'll tell you what, Kokanee, they're not interested in eating anything you guys are showing them. They hit out of aggression. You're kind of trying to make them mad. You're trying to aggravate them. They come in and strike your lure. They either grab it good or they don't. It's what it is. Treble hook will definitely probably increase your chances of keeping a kokanee on longer. I'm not going to say it's going to keep it on. You know they have soft mouths, especially the smaller ones, but I just play it this way. If they grab it good and we can get a hook in the mouth and that second hook will come over and hook it in the head or underneath the gill plate, you got a better chance of getting them on. I run my drags very loose. I mean, I can show you on my drags, they're pretty loose. I let those fish run on me, but you always got to make sure you keep good tension on them. That's about the best advice I can give you for keeping them on. I've seen people do it wrong. I've seen people do it right. And it seems like the guys that do it wrong keep more on than the guys that do it right. Question? I apologize. Come over here.
When you're making S-turns, when you're trolling, how do you prevent tangling if you have a long setback?
Okay. So how do we prevent S-turns when we're entangling when we're doing S-turns? That's a great question. Remember when I told you these back down riggers I'll have at 25 to 30 feet? The other ones I have 15 to 10, and then the other ones are 3 to 5. So depth variation, different setbacks will eliminate when you do those turns. Everything crosses. So it eliminates that chance of those lines tangling up. Oh, you can ask Krista, when we started kokanee fishing, we had some pretty good tangles. And it's just because I had everything down at a certain depth. You gotta make sure you're covering different depths. Now, you're a flaming gorge, you're probably gonna have everything at 40 to 45 feet. That's just where those fish typically like to hang. So you may wanna do less of a S-turn if you're running multiple lines. Any other questions?
How do you vary on the pankin? How do you know that each lake's having a good pankin year?
A good what again?
Pankin, what the kokanee are eating. How do you know if the lake really produces good pankin in the water, what they eat in the water?
Oh, what they're eating in the water?
Yeah, how do you compare that the pankins are doing really well in each lake?
The what again?
Plankton, how can you tell the amount of plankton in each water, in the water? It's good or bad?
Oh, the plankton age?
On the habitat, how good is it going to be varies each year?
Oh, on the plankton. So I think this year we didn't have a lot of ice on strawberry, so I think our plankton blooms obviously have started off early. And I know that because when I'm cleaning these kokanee right now, they're full of plankton. Those rainbows that we're catching, you can literally, if you're catching 40 to 50 rainbows in a day at strawberry and you squeeze them, they're puking out plankton. Like the plankton blooms right now at strawberry are unbelievable. I mean, I've seen some years where I was over on by Mud Creek for one year as I'm trolling through the water and I see, it looks like malto meal in the water. I'm like, what is all this stuff in the water? And as I'm looking, I start seeing kokanee, and there's thousands of them at 5 to 10 feet deep. I can see the backs of them, some of them on the surface, and they're just sitting in there. There's a big plankton bloom going on from there, almost to Sage Creek. And I'm not kidding, you'd go through that little area, and it was quad after quad after quad after quad. You're done fishing in 5 to 10 minutes if you want to be. But those plankton blooms, they usually start a little bit later if there's a lot of ice on the water. This year, where we didn't have a lot of ice, I think we've had plankton blooms quite a bit through the winter. And like I said, the plankton that I'm seeing in those kokanee's bellies is unbelievable. I mean, they're chock full and they're fat, they're healthy. Thanks, Ridge. You just saved me $120. Any other questions?
Is it okay to let them go? I mentioned last week on Facebook I let a couple of small ones go. and a guy chewed me out that they're gonna die.
Yeah, he's asking if it's okay to let kokanee go. If they're bleeding, you've ripped out an eye, I even go as far as if there's a hook in their head, it's probably a good idea to keep them. But this time of year, the water's pretty cold. If they're hooked clean, it's fine. Like, just let them go. Another advice I have for you, if anybody's giving you crap about what you're doing out there, there's 3 little buttons up there on Facebook. Block. Like, there's no need for that. Like, you do what you want to do. There's not a rule in the rule book that says that you have to keep kokanee.
Well, I thought with the cold water, the same thing, it was uninjured and it was cold,
Yeah.
so I thought it was fine.
Yeah, the colder the water, the better they do. So as it gets hotter, yeah, they can definitely struggle a little bit as you're letting them go.
Handling them and what the survival rate is if you handle it, and also it gets worse for them the harder the water is for releasing and having survival.
So handling and releasing them and the survival rate?
Yeah, don't they have a protective slime on their body to protect the bacteria? If you're handling them, you take that slime off of their body.
Yeah, they do have that slime on that protects them. That's why we use a rubber net. Typically, if you're going to release that fish, you're going to bring it in with the net. You're going to grab less fish as possible and get those hooks out and then let that fish go. But yeah, try to not handle it as much as if you know you're going to let it go. I mean, I don't know if that's all true. Like, that's something that, I mean, we respect the fish, of course. We try to be ethical. If for some reason we've handled that fish too long, I mean, I've even had it go as far as people wanted a picture of it, and I'm like, if we're taking a picture, we're going to keep it, because now we're handling that fish way more than we probably should be. So just be smart about it. Try to let it, if you're not going to keep it, try to keep it in the water. Try to release that hook off there as clean as you can. I typically like to try to grab the fish, especially in the net, and so it doesn't wrap up. If you leave that fish in the net and you let him spin in there, now that hook catches on the net and it rips, and it's almost, in my opinion, a better idea to try to handle the fish and keep control of him and get that hook out as fast as you can and let him go. That's just my preference.
But late in August, because of the temperature change coming up from 50, 60 feet up to the warmer water, the survival rate is not good for a fish that comes up in that area in August, July, August.
So coming up from the deep, the survival rate's not as good. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people that catch kokanee. I know a lot of people that let them go. I would say in all the years that I've caught kokanee, I've seen one float, but they could sink. So like I said, that's your personal opinion. If that's a way that any of you guys want to fish, you keep those kokanee as you catch them, then you do that. Like I said, the law states it doesn't say you have to keep those kokanee. So I'm not going to dive into that. That's your opinion. It's your fishing day. It's your fish. Do what you feel like's right.
Yeah, strawberry triangle. Is that a myth or?
So strawberry triangle, that used to be a big thing. I know Jared's got that wrapped on his map right there. That was an area where they lost a bunch of kokanee, and that was an area where a lot of people hit. I don't believe in the strawberry triangle. They plant the kokanee in the Strawberry River, and those fish supposedly follow the river all the way over to Soldier Creek. Also don't believe that they all go over to Soldier Creek. I think a lot of them do. But the triangle, I think, was something in the past. These are 3 to 4 year fish. So if we're not planting them in the triangle every year, and we're planting them in the river, which is smart, let's plant them in the river and hope they come back up the river. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great kokanee season.